everyone. Thank you for joining. And for those of you on the replay, welcome replay viewers. So happy that you have joined and popped in. Hello, big sub. Thank you so much for joining. I'm gonna wait for a couple of people to pop in before we start talking all about the conscious parents. Hello, the parenting buzz. Thank you so much for joining. Hello, and for all the replay viewers, thanks so much for joining as well. You can still give hearts on the replay. Hello, today we are talking all about the conscious parent. We're talking all about the conscious parent. We're actually on chapter 7, and we're talking about what you can learn from your infants and from your toddlers. Hello, Hot Shop Suey. Gonna flip this around. Hello everyone, how are you? Thank you so much for joining. Today we're gonna talk all about, hello Felicia, thank you so much for joining. Today we're gonna talk all about The Conscious Parent, this lovely book by Dr. Tsabary. And she is actually one of Oprah's favorites. That's what actually got me connected to this book originally. Hello, Ronde. I can't pronounce your name, but hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. And so for those of you that don't know me, hello, my name is Brooke-Sidney and my company is Bella and the Babe, and it's all about empowering authentic motherhood. And for me, that's all about helping mamas learn how to power from within. And today we are talking all about chapter 7, which is entitled The Challenge of a Lifetime, Infancy and the Terrible Twos. But what I found in this chapter, hello Admire Red Rose, thank you so much for joining. I love when you pop in. What I found is that, hello, Felicia's like, got my book, I'm trying to catch up this weekend. Oh, awesome, Felicia, and I'm gonna get you into the group. So no worries, I'm so glad you got the book and you're trying to catch up. And hi Jade, thank you so much for joining, you guys. I love it when my folks are here, you guys make it worthwhile. So today we're talking all about chapter 7, which is like the lessons we can learn from our infants and toddlers. And yes, we can actually learn from them, right? It seems surprising, but we really can. And so there's actually, hi Jade, hello, hey, as I always say. So there's about 7 points, and I promise to go through them quickly. Thank you so much for the hearts, you guys. If I'm saying something that is worthy of an applause or else just makes you feel good, or even especially with this book, it makes you go, then go ahead and give hearts. That's the way I know that it makes sense for me to keep sharing this. I love sharing this book, but I really love it when you guys comment. So please don't hold any comments or questions to the end. Please feel free to pop in at any time. I would love to hear all of your thoughts and your comments. So jumping right in, okay guys, so jumping right in. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about from this book and about conscious parenting is that really, the basis of all of it is to help us create a really great relationship with our child. From a big perspective, we really want to focus on that parent-child relationship and the spiritual aspects of it. And I think the first point is that this focus on the spiritual relationship between the parent and the child, it's not something that's going to be talked about in mainstream America. It's not something that's talked about in the world. So it's important for us to think about it, even though it's not something we're going to hear when we go into the pediatrician. You know, when we go after we have our baby, we go in for the first checkup. The doctor's not going to say to you, you know, how's the spiritual relationship going with your child? You know, how are you connecting with your child? The questions are going to be more about like, is your child eating or nursing or taking the bottle, whatever, how's the child sleeping? And it's going to be about poop, really. It's going to be about poop. It's not going to be about, you know, the nature of our relationship. But it's really important that we think about it because we imprint upon our children. Felicia says, laugh out loud, right? They just want to know developmental and physical stuff. Exactly. That's exactly it. They're not concerned. Hello, View from the Fridge. I love that name. Thank you for joining. They're not trying to understand how well the parent and the child are connecting or bonding necessarily. They're concerned all about pooping, eating, sleeping, all those developmental and physical, especially in the beginning, like all the physical things. So just know that even though it's not like at the forefront of maybe, your pediatrician visits, or even, some of the people that when they stop by and they say hello and they visit the baby, they're not going to be talking about those things. But it doesn't mean that it's not important for us to think about it and focus on it, because we know that we imprint upon our children. We affect each other in very complex ways. We imprint upon our children, and truthfully, thank you so much for the hearts, guys, and truthfully, our children imprint upon us too. So it's a very, very important relationship, and it all begins at the infant stage, right when they're born. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about, the second big point, hi Aprobado, thank you for joining, is that in the transition to parenthood, it's important for us as parents to acknowledge this big change, and for some people to acknowledge this loss. And what I mean by that is that when we transition to becoming a parent, when we transition, I think especially to becoming a mother, who we were before parenthood disappears. It really does in so many respects. I don't know about you guys, but I know many mamas share with me, even from the moment they have the baby and they're in the hospital and someone comes to visit them. Felicia says so true. It's never about, hey mama, how are you doing? It's like, hey, it's baby. Let's check out the baby. Let's look at the baby. And your identity then becomes so-and-so's mother, right? So that's one way like that you see and you see easily, right? But in the other ways, our lives drastically change, right? Like when our child enters our world, we are forced to like change our schedules, change the way that we do things. We can no longer just go out on our own. We have we have this whole new person to think about. Felicia says, same as when you get married sometimes. Exactly, so-and-so's wife. Exactly, Felicia. That's so true. And my red rose, and that never ends. I know, right? I don't think that ends. Felicia says, especially when you stay at home without a career. I think that is true, Felicia. I think you see it even more, especially when you don't go back to work, or you're not at work when you're a stay-at-home mom. I think that is so true. That's such a good point. So I think that it's important for us to understand the change that we're going through. Hopefully you guys are not all hearing all my dogs. The change that we're going through at these times, to acknowledge that it's normal, and also to acknowledge that it's at some level a sense of a loss, right? It's at some level we are, tending to the old space while creating this new space for our children. So it's really important for us to think about all of that as we're entering this new life, and creating this new identity. So the second point here is really to acknowledge this change, recognize it, and we can learn from it, right? We can learn from it when we acknowledge it. So the third point is that there's a big lesson, I think, from the time our children are in the infant stages, right? The big lesson here is all about oneness and togetherness. So in the infant stage, the primary spiritual agenda really revolves around oneness and togetherness, because that's the time when we do most of the bonding with our children. Our children are brand new, they've just entered the world, and really at that moment, it's all about bonding with them. Thank you so much for the hearts. At this time, the parent and the child are really infusing each other. I mean, they're even rhythmically connected. The mother, especially when they're breastfeeding, they are totally synergetically, they're totally connected, body and mind, it's all together. The child breathes and cries and the parent responds. So it's really a time of learning about oneness and togetherness. Thanks so much for the hearts, guys. And so this stage is really critical for us to learn oneness and togetherness, but it's also for us to, Felicia says, even through our breathing and was in sync. Exactly. Everything. Like I think our bodies are designed to be, especially as mothers, our bodies are designed to be in sync with our children. And so their cries, their breathing, oftentimes I know I would wake up before my son woke up. All of these things are just so biologically, imprinted. We're just created to be together. So it's really important to think about that. I think that's where a lot of the larger parenting, but also spiritual lessons come together, is when we recognize and truly put an emphasis on focusing on oneness and focusing on togetherness. Felicia says it's really amazing how connected mothers are to their children. I know, Felicia, I continue to be amazed, especially when you kind of start, when they first have like their first instances of pain or they're hurt, or even when they're happy, just how their emotions, how you take them on and even feel them, I feel like sometimes at greater depths. But yes, like that's kind of leading into the other big point here, is that we want to really make sure that we have a great mindset, because our fears, our fantasies, our inhibitions, our courage, all of that are registered by our infants. Like, people think that babies are not, they don't know what's going on. They do know what's going on. They absorb, they're like sponges. They absorb everything. So if we are fearful, they absorb our fears. If we're happy, they can become happy. If we have a lot of inhibitions, they start internalizing those things. Felicia says, so true, even at a young age. So that's why it's so important that we take stock of this stage, take stock of what we are giving off. You know, I've talked about before the energy that's also unseen, right? So it's really important. And even at this stage, as parents and early caretakers, we want to respond to our physical needs of our children. Admired Red Rose says, yes, more parents need to understand that. Yeah, totally. They totally do. Because a lot of people think, oh, they don't have any memory, you know, they don't really have true memory until about 4. It doesn't really matter what we do when they're so young. It does matter. In fact, you build the foundations of the bond between your child at this early stage. So it's really important how parents and any early child care giver responds to all of the physical needs of the child, and they create a sense of oneness at this point, because it really does set the stage for later years. But we can learn as parents. Admired Red Rose says, yes, we can learn as parents how, when we give this constant service to our infants, how we actually learn to have more spiritual depth. Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much for joining. Our infants show us how we can transcend our own selfish wishes and become present for another, right? Our infants actually help us show greater depths of humanity. That's what we can learn. Thank you, Felicia, for inviting followers. That's what we can learn. So I know people often complain, especially in the early stages. Thank you so much, you guys that are popping in right now. They often complain about how much we give to our children. But really, by us giving, it creates an opportunity for us to learn deeper service. Hi, Candace. Deeper service, and we are able to transcend some of our own more selfish nature, right? Like, we grow, we see our depths, and that's what we can learn from this short period in our lives of giving totally to the needs of our infants. So, I know firsthand that this is my fourth point, is that our whole journey, childhood, infancy, toddlers, it really helps us have a journey to becoming more selfless. I quickly learned in the beginning that my time was not my own. My joke was that, like, people would be like, well, are you going to be able to do that? I would joke and say, I have to check with my boss meaning my son. It was just a joke, but I knew that at this phase, at this season, hi, it's me, T, at this season of my life, like, my time no longer just belonged to myself. Felicia's laughing. My life was no longer my own. It was ours. Really at this point. And it doesn't last forever. Hello. Hi, it's me, T. It doesn't last forever. But it's also very beautiful. Hello, April. Thank you so much for joining. It's also really beautiful because if we can get in this moment, especially with the infants, it's truly a moment that's free of agenda. Babies at this age, they don't have an agenda. Yeah, Felicia, thanks you to all your followers who jumps in. I'm so happy that they're here. Thank you, Felicia, so much for sharing. So anyway, when we are able to be in the moment with our children, we gain. We actually gain. We become free. We become free to actually just be in that moment. And we can live like boundless, like our little ones live. We can experience those things too. In serving, we do ourselves a service. We discover that nature about ourselves, right, you guys? Like, it's not, I know it seems at times, especially when we give, that it's very, it's tiring and we're always being a service. And sometimes it feels like they don't give back. but really the nature of that relationship, the symbiosis of that relationship causes us to get something back, and that is a deepening of ourselves. It causes us to see our selflessness. That being of service really helps us see more about our own compassionate and unconditional love. And I think that that is totally awesome. Okay, so the fifth point, I'm trying to get through this and not keep you on here forever. The fifth point is that this period of time really gives us a chance to like discover our own rhythm. And what I really mean by that, Candace says I have to embrace this season of my life. Yes, Candace, embrace it to its fullest. Embrace it to its fullest. It's truly just a season, but it's rich. It truly is rich with lessons for us to learn. And just as Felicia is saying, it goes by so fast. It's such a short season. It's such a short season, but we really learn so much. So, you know, we know that in the moment of infancy, thank you so much, you guys, for all of you that are sharing and for all of you that are continuing to join. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're on the fifth point, which is really about the period of time during infancy really teaches us oneness and helps us to slow down. Hello, Photography by Mata. Thank you for joining. An infant, really, you guys, because at this point they're really just they're pure joy, right? They're pure energy, and they just have simple needs. So they expose us to a whole new rhythm of life. They make us slow down, right? For us to have oneness with our infant, we have to slow down. We have to slow down. So like we will hold ourselves in a slow space when we're like nursing them, when we're putting them to bed, when we're feeding them, when we're rocking them, or even when we're changing them. We actually have the ability, if we are present, to slow down and enjoy it. And I think there's a total life lesson, there's a spiritual lesson in all of that. So as a quick story, I love the Shark Tank. I love the Shark Tank. I think that it's an awesome show, right? So on the Shark Tank, Felicia says mindfulness, exactly. On the Shark Tank, there was this invention. I think it was called like a beeple. And it was invented by a man who wanted to be able to do things while he was feeding his child. So basically he had like some contraption that would hold the bottle so that he could then do, you know, other things while the baby was actually feeding. And I'm sitting there going, oh no, right? Because those moments, the moments when we feed our child, are precious. Those are bonding moments, they're connection moments, and also they are moments for us to just be. Just be, right? And if we could really appreciate those moments, it would go so much farther. Felicia's the bottle inside the ball they could put fingers through. I don't know. It's so funny. But yeah, it was like, so the baby could essentially drink from the bottle on its own without any help from the parent. I was shocked. But I really think babies at that point they're really inviting you to say, I'm here, just be with me. Felicia says, I breastfed it, even though it drained me, slowed me down to the moment. Felicia, I agree. Same with me. That's same with me. And I appreciate those moments that I had. So I really think that that season and this time period, like to Candace, that, you know, it's in the season and everything, it's really asking us to slow down. It's asking us to surrender. It's asking us to focus on the baby for a while. It's asking us to really learn the power of moment by moment, to just be there with them during their infancy, right? And it's a window. Dr. Shefali says it's a window for changing your spiritual vibration. And I think what she really means by that, it's a window for us to become more spiritually in touch with ourselves, to become our higher self, you know, however you want to look at it. You know, I feel like to tap into higher spirit, right? Like God, because we have slowed down. We've slowed down. We were able to get quiet. You know, we're able to embrace all of these lessons that happened in our first year. So then number 6 is we bounce into, I like to say bounce into toddlerhood, because I feel like that's kind of how toddlerhood is. And Candace says, God definitely wanted me to hear this tonight. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad, Candace. I'm so glad. Yeah, in toddlerhood, it's really, she calls it a planet all of its own. And I would totally agree. It's a planet all of its own. And it's really about letting go and being present. So when your child kind of moves from being an infant, a wee babe, to being around 2 years old, they are exploring things like individuality and separateness. So being not so connected to mommy and daddy. And as you can probably imagine, and for those of you that have gone through this stage or are in this stage, children in their twos can be very tiring, like very draining, because they are testing. They're learning more about themselves. They're getting like things for the hearts, guys. They're getting moments of understanding a little bit more like, oh, I'm actually a unique individual. I'm my own person. You know, and so they can seem very unpredictable or even manipulative. They can seem that way, right? Or attention seeking. They can be moody, all of these things. Their emotions are highs and lows. You guys, they're like bouncing off of the place, right? So nothing, I don't think, can prepare us for true toddlerhood. And because it's so chaotic for them. It's chaotic for them emotionally and physically. They're just learning about like their bodies. They're starting to feel their own emotions. You guys, it's a chaotic time. I tell you all of this so that we cannot attach to it so much, so that we can know this is what's going on, this is what's happening in their bodies, this is what's happening in their minds and in their hearts and in their emotions. Thank you so much, guys. If something I'm saying, please double tap the screen to give me hearts. But yeah, if you can see it for what it is, then we don't become so exasperated by it. We don't become so upset. We're more able to be in the moment with it, which is the goal, right? We're more able to just let go. Felicia says they are kids. They don't know what we know yet. It's our job as parents to teach them. Exactly. We are their guides. We are their guides. That's what we're here to do. And so they don't know yet. They totally don't know yet. They're just little balls, the little balls of energy, right? That need boundaries and containment. But the whole point of number 6 is that we just want to understand that they are going through this process, right? They are, you know, boundless, right? And they're testing boundaries. They have all these things going on. But it's really important for us to recognize that, let's see what, and they don't learn it the first, second, third time. It's repetition and consistency. Exactly. That's my 7th point, Felicia. You're on it. We're on it. That's exactly where I'm going. But the really best thing that I think that we can think about when we think about, Felicia says, when we think about children, our toddlers at our stage, is that we don't want to give unrealistic expectations. We don't want to put unrealistic expectations on them. We want to do containment, which I'll talk about in the last point, but we also want to make sure that we are not putting unrealistic expectations onto them beginning at this stage. That's usually where a lot of the expectations, especially in our minds, start setting. You know, we start making our children sometimes act like puppets. I fall prey to it. I'll tell my son, say hi, say bye to these people, or, you know, say especially bye, or say night-night, or whatever. Like, we try to make them into like these little puppets. And I know my son is saying to myself, Mama, I'm not your little show, you know, your circus monkey. You know, I don't feel like doing it right now, perhaps, right? So in some instances, we kind of rob them of their spontaneity by, thanks so much for the hearts, you guys, by making them into our puppets. So it's important that we're just kind of aware of it, because this is where the unconscious and sometimes unrealistic expectations start setting in. Felicia says, yes, you know, it really does. That's when we start paying more attention to, when do they start talking? When do they start walking? When do they start potty training? And we start putting on expectations, just setting these rigid timelines and guidelines, and which takes us out of the moment of just being where they are right now, and in helping them embrace their new world and honestly having fun with them while they're doing it, you guys. So I just wanted to remind us on this point to really let go and make sure that we stay present. And the last point is all about toddlerhood is the time that we want to sow the seeds of containment. And that means it is the time when we start to set boundaries. We start to let them know that there is some understanding of limits of their world, right? And, you know, right now, they don't really, at this age, they don't really understand too much about logic or reasoning. They're still really functioning on an instinctual level. but it's the time when we start doing boundary setting. You know, it's the time, believe it or not, of setting boundaries, containment, and negotiation. Thanks, DUI 11. Thanks for joining. Where it can seem like a battle of wills, just like it is in the teen years, right? Because we are doing the same types of things. And this is the time when we first start saying no, right? And the kid knows what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. And it's really important here when we tell a no that it's appropriately delivered. That's the first thing. And that it's consistently applied. I think Felicia had also mentioned the consistency. It's very, very important that we appropriately deliver the no, the boundary setting, the no, it is not okay, and that we consistently apply it. And this really sets the stage for the behavioral dynamics between the parent and the child. So it really is important. I know people think, oh, it's okay when they're really, really young. No, they are sponges. They are absorbing it. They understand it at the basic level that no, it's not okay, right? And so sometimes we have to be the bad guys. Can't wait to catch up. So far, I agree with a lot of what she says. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you'll love this book. You'll love the book. And I even think the things that we don't love about it, or some of the times when I'm like, it still really helps me clarify my thoughts about it, the way I want to mother, the way that I want to parent. It asks the right questions, even if we don't agree with everything 100%. That's why I think the book is great. And I really think that even for people that are not parents, it really helps us learn more about our stuff, right? The stuff that we are bringing every day to all of our relationships. So anyway, so really containment here really just means sometimes setting the boundaries, but it really requires us to build these muscles of awareness. It really requires us to know about ourselves, know if we're being in a triggered space or coming from a clear space. That's why it's so important. So, and then discipline really requires us to have moment by moment awareness so that we are doing containment and discipline in a conscious manner, meaning an aware manner, so that our child is really getting the right messages at the right time in a way that's loving and conscious, and I feel like life-giving, right? Like life-giving. So anyway, those are the main points for today. So I hope, I will try to recap because it's quite a bit, but the first thing was really just understanding that a lot of these conversations about the lessons that we can learn, the importance of the spiritual relationship between a parent and a child, you're not going to hear it in mainstream America. It's just important for us to remember that it is something that we want to think about and keep at the forefront of our minds. Good night, Felicia. Jade says conscious yet structured discipline. Exactly. That's exactly it. Conscious and consistent and structured discipline. Hi, Hot Shop Suey. And then the second point was just that we want to make sure that we acknowledge our transition to parenthood, to know that there can be a change, and for some people to feel that there's a loss. That will help us become in a better place when we acknowledge it, to really learn the lessons that we need to learn from parenthood, because we are coming into it with an aware state of mind. And then third, we can learn oneness and togetherness from our infants. Fourth, this journey from becoming a parent helps us learn selflessness, which is really, really key. We really actually get back that kind of glimpse of our deeper humanity and being selfless by learning from our children at this stage. And then the fifth one is that really having a child, especially the younger children, require us to have oneness and slow down. So we want to enjoy these moments. These are the lessons that our children are teaching them. And then for toddlerhood, number 6, it's all about letting go and being present, and not placing unrealistic expectations on them, letting it go, because toddlerhood is not a neat and tidy stage of parenthood or even childhood. It is what it is, as we often talk about with conscious parenting. And then the last point, number 7, is that toddlerhood is when we begin to sow the seeds of containment. So we begin to apply containment appropriately and consistently. So those are the points today, you guys. That's all about the lessons that you can learn, you know, as we as adults can learn as parents from having children in the infant stage and in the toddlerhood stage. There are spiritual lessons that we can learn. If you're interested in learning more about any of this, please visit my site. It's bellaandthebabe.com. If you're interested in joining the book club, please go to bit.ly/CP book club. You can learn more about there. You can actually join. There's a Facebook group for mamas that talks about this more in depth. Please clarify containment. So containment really is starting the beginning of setting the boundaries, right? It's really thinking about boundaries. It's like starting to think about limits. It's saying no. It's showing no, that's not okay. And it's really important that we are doing this with a level of awareness. So that we're not like getting unnecessarily upset with our children over things that they didn't necessarily do, that we can in the moment address that specific behavior in an appropriate manner, right? That yeah, it's important that it's appropriately delivered and consistently applied. And we're going to get more and more into containment as the chapters go on. But this is kind of the beginning time when we start to focus on it a little bit. We start to say, this is the time when you want to start setting some boundaries. And so if you guys are interested in learning more, feel free to join the Mama group. It's free. It's on Facebook. It allows you to dive deeper into these conversations if you want to. Jade says, thank you. Says, great points. I caught the end, but we'll catch the replay. Monica, thank you so much for jumping in. Please do catch the replay, and you can still give hearts on the replay. And if you have any questions, feel free again to go to my site, bellaandthebabe.com. You can email me or tweet me. I'd love to hear from you all. So thanks so much. I really had a good time. Thanks so much for the interaction and the hearts, guys. Love you. Take care. Bye.